May Christ's word only be spoken and Christ's word only be heard. Amen. We have a baptism this morning of a little person in the very front row. His name is Kingston Teixeira, and he traveled all the way from Hawaii to be here with us this morning. So we're so thrilled. He's a beautiful baby, and someday he will grow up to be a young man, and he'll have to start making choices in his life. Will I go this way or will I go that way? And his parents, Stephanie and Luke, have decided that they want to have him baptized so that he can be raised in the Christian way of life. This way of life will show him how to make good decisions that will help him respect the dignity of every human being. This way of life will help him discover that life is vast and deep and immensely worth living. And we, the church, are going to make promises that we will support him in his journey in this life. You know, there's an old story about a young man who came of age, and it was time for him to leave home, and so he went off to university, and then he went off on holiday. And finally, when he came back home to visit his parents, his father said to him, "Son, I was worried about you." And the young man replied, "Why, Father? Why were you worried about me? Did you think I would have been in an accident or something?" And the father said, "Oh no, that would have meant nothing, even if you had been killed. I thought you had lost your integrity." And then on another occasion, the father said, "Always remember that whether you are alive or dead matters nothing. What matters is what you live for and what you are prepared to die for." And those were powerful words that young man never forgot. And of course his life is precious. Of course the parents care about whether our children live or die, but even more important, can we live a life of integrity? The question for us this morning, what matters most to you? What are you living for, and what are you prepared to die for? If we gain every material possession and have vast wealth, but no integrity, is our life worth living? When Jesus asked his disciples, "Who do you say that I am?" he's asking the question, do you see what I'm willing to live for, what I'm willing to die for? Jesus has such great love for humanity that he was willing to give up his life for us. And he tells us those who lose their life for my sake and for the sake of the gospel will save their lives. I think of someone like the white seminary student in 1965 who decided he would leave school and go down south to be part of the civil rights movement. And one day, he threw himself in front of a young black girl who was one of his companions in this movement. Her name was Ruby Sales. He threw himself in front of her when a gunman aimed his gun at her. And he saved her life, but he lost his own to protect her. And we know from this young man's writings, he's now a martyr in our church. We know that Jonathan Daniels had already pondered before that moment, what would he do? What would he lay down his life for? He thought of it ahead of time. As Jesus says, no greater love has a person than this, than to lay down his life for his friends. The time that we live in seems to have great disregard for Christianity. It's a time of deep divisions in our land. It's a time when it's hard to be a priest because there are priests who have tarnished the name of Christ, abusing their ordination in the church to hurt and harm the vulnerable. But these crimes do not mean that we should abandon our faith or forget what matters most. We do not lose hope. We have to intensify our prayers and our commitment. We have to mean it when we say we love our neighbor. To say I love you, we usually say it with a big I and a small u. But love is a verb that implies action. Do we stake our life on what we are saying? To really love means we have to look closely at that person next to us and see that person as someone that God created, someone that God willed into existence. You know, you might be furious with your neighbor, yet we have to try to see that divine spark that exists in everyone to break the impasses of our anger. Love is hard, it's difficult. It takes tremendous effort and determination to live out a life of love. And when we confess the faith of Christ crucified, we acknowledge that Jesus is all about the way of love. When he encountered sick people, he healed them. When he encountered those who would judge, he said, "Let the person who is innocent cast the first stone." When he laid down his own life, he did not do it for himself. He did it for all of us. So will we be ashamed of the gospel that Jesus sets before us, the gospel of love? Or as baptized Christians, will we take up our cross and follow him, following in the way of hope and justice and love? These are the things that matter the most. Amen.